Hello everyone, how's it going? Coming to you live from UK's... what a line. Coming to you live from the UK's most unhygienic city to eat in, Aberdeen, the Monkey Town. It's me, Steve Smith, with this week's AEW Dynamite review for the 15th of September 2021. Before we start, and I start gushing over this episode, I need to do the housekeeping. Subscribe to the Wrestlebuddy channel, that's where you're watching this right now. Duh. Later today, we will be releasing an interview with former WWE personality James Ellsworth that you really do not want to miss. I believe Jim Baby has been part of that interview. I can't remember who else is in it, but it's worth watching. I know that I've heard good things about it. Last week, myself and Andy from Brit Wrestling, who hosts the Wrestlebuddy podcast, which you can watch on the channel, we interviewed British wrestling legend Doug Williams, and it was a really good interview. You can also watch that on the channel. For all your wrestling news, visit wrestlebuddy.com. News, rumours, scoops, reviews, all in text-based form. It's all there. Check it out. We really need subscribers at the moment, and we cannot do this. We're putting in a lot of work to try and just push out some good quality content for wrestling fans. We can't do it without your help. So whoever you are, chuck us a like, leave a comment, tell us what you thought of the shows, tell us what you thought about the things we're reviewing, because that's what we like. We like to engage. I'll be talking to everyone in the comments later on. Don't worry about that. And yeah, help us, help you, help us, help you, help us spread wrestling and opinions to the world. And yeah, I believe the James Ellsworth interview will be live 2 hours after right now. It's at 3 o'clock UK time, like 3 p.m. UK time. You don't want to miss it. There's going to be like an event for it. So you can check out the channel. You can sit and wait for it to come on. It will drop at 3 p.m. on the dot. Remember, I review AEW Dynamite and Rampage every Thursday and Saturday afternoons at 1 p.m. UK time. Join me live, tell me what you thought about the shows, or just watch the reviews whenever you want, because that's how YouTube works. It's really cool. And tell me what you thought about the shows in the comments, and we will get back to you. I will speak to you, and like I said, I'll be in the comments. I love speaking to people in comments, especially if we're talking about wrestling. So, let's get to the review, because we've got half an hour. We're 3 minutes in, and we've got a lot to get through. This week, we were live from a sold-out Prudence Center in New Jersey, and the crowd were hot to trot. The show opened with CM Punk making his entrance for his stint as guest commentator for the evening. Cult of Personality hit, and the crowd went bananas. They were singing his theme tune, all sorts. Punk looked like he was loving life as usual. He did a huge stage dive. I was like, whoa, that was pretty incredible. It was really cool. It was a lovely way to start the show. Excalibur was back this week. He's now a happily married man, apparently. I will say now, before we get any further into this, Punk is a really good commentator. A lot of people don't realise that when he was on the indies, like before he went to WWE, he did a lot of commentary on like indie shows, and he was really good at it. Obviously, he had a short stint on WWE as a commentator, which he was really good at as well. So I was looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to Punk on commentary. He's got a great voice for commentary, and he knows how to do it. He's really good at it. So that was cool. And then the entrance of CM Punk was followed by Adam Cole's music playing, and the new Elite member comes out for his first match in AEW. This was a great way to start the show. Like, seriously great. They set the crowd off for Punk, and then boom, Adam Cole, baby. It was great. Adam Cole is so over with this crowd. Like, he does his bit at the start where he stands on the ring apron and he goes, and everyone just went boom. It's like, yes. And then he got in the ring, does the whole Adam Cole, baby, with literally everyone in the arena doing it with him. Brilliant. It was Adam Cole versus Frankie Kazarian first. Obviously, this was Cole's first match in AEW. This was set to be a great match, and obviously I had hopes this would be a good match, and I was not wrong. It was a fun match. Nothing insanely over the top happened in this, just some good quality pro wrestling that made the crowd, who were here to see pro wrestling, very happy. The finish came when Cole hit Kaz with the Panama Sunrise. That's the Canadian Destroyer that comes off the second rope. He followed this up with an exposed knee Shining Wizard to the back of his head. It was a good match. It was a lovely finish. Post-match, it was story time with Adam Cole. He says There are 3 guys at AEW who have already gotten under his skin. Christian, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy. He then goes on to propose a Rampage Grand Slam 6-man tag team match between the Jungle Express and Cage against the Super Click, as he called them. A great name. That is Cole and the Young Bucks. The Super Click. Remember it? Yes. Good way to start the match. Good way to set up a match that's coming up. Christian and the Jurassic Express versus the Super Click has good things written all over it. And of course he teased there the Grand Slam Rampage, which we're going to get to soon, because this is actually some pretty big news for next week. Following this, we had a quick Lucha Brothers promos on Rampage this week. It's going to be the Lucha Brothers versus the Butcher and Blade, which I am happy for. I am down for that, 100% down for that. I'm a big fan of the Butcher and the Blade. I've said this on my old channel when I used to do reviews. Butcher and the Blade are a really good team. They're one of the few teams who have got a selection of different looks depending on what they're doing. Like they've got their we're at work look where they wear white overalls. They've got their wear badasses where they wear leather. You know, they've got a few looks. It's good. Butcher is just like such a good look for a pro wrestler. That's what when you think pro wrestler, you think someone like the Butcher. Awesome. We've got another backstage promo with Fuego del Sol and Sammy Guevara, who were sitting on Fuego's car. It's his new car. It looks like it's quite a new car. They were talking about the car and how much he loves his car. He then challenged Miro to a match. And if he loses the match, Miro gets his car. Why? I don't know. I don't know what Fuego's doing here. I'll just hope he wins. This match gets developed later on in the show into a TNT title match. It's going to happen. Whether Fuego will get the win or not, who knows? But it's happening next week. Next up, we had an MJF promo. Now, there's a lot of promos on the show this week. Basically, this show is a go-home show. It's not a normal episode. The Dynamite it is a go-home show for the Arthur Ashe Stadium show next week. So we got a lot of promo segments. I love MJF as a wrestler, but his gimmick of being a complete prick grates on me. I mean, I guess pissing people off is what he's meant to do. But the way I see it, he's pretty one-dimensional. I mean, he literally just has that one gear and it's being offensive. There was a huge shut the F up chant from the crowd here. In this promo, he basically cut a promo to the late Brian Pillman. Again, referencing his widow. And I'm just not a fan of this because this is bringing a bit too much real life into this storyline where there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of people that have had a bad time through this. But Pillman Jr. must be agreeing to this, so it is what it is. Pillman Jr. came out and he went to hit MJF with a chair, but for some reason he didn't. I don't know. I don't understand why he did this. And then Wardlow failed to hit Pillman and the heels got away. I wasn't a fan of this segment. The promo was it's just an MJF promo. He was just being a prick. I really don't understand why Pillman ran into the ring with a chair, then didn't hit MJF. Like, I'm going to hit you, but then didn't hit him and give time for Wardlow to come in and take the chair off. And maybe the spot was supposed to happen a lot quicker. I don't know. The segment got a bit of a thumbs down from me. The match that's coming up next week with Pillman Jr. and MJF, it'll be a great match. Don't get me wrong. It'll be a really good match and the crowd will be super over for it. But I wasn't really into this segment. We then got a quick clip of JR interviewing Pillman Jr. I guess this is going to be on like a Road to Dynamite show next week. In short, he tells Pillman Jr. that he needs to kick MJF's ass at Arthur Ashe Stadium, and I agree. Jr. was okay in this, but it's pretty generic stuff. There's nothing overly big here. There's nothing overly bombastic. I'm trying to find a word there. But it's hyping up the match for next week at Arthur Ashe. It'll be a good match. I'm just not a fan of the way they're building to it. So that is that. I just want to mention here very quickly that the Fight TV app on Samsung TVs is sucking balls at the moment. At one point, the app randomly closed on me and it took 5 minutes for me to find my place again, as it doesn't have a decent fast-forward function. It's like, seriously, Fight, get it sorted. At the very least, add a resume button, so if it accidentally goes off, you can resume it. I mean, it's 2021. Come on, people. Next on the show, we had Matt Sydal and Dante Martin versus FTR. Where's Mike? I don't know where Mike Sydal is. I think he's injured. I think I heard recently that he's injured. No matter though, this looked like it was going to be a lot of fun. Matt Seidel's always good, Dante Martin always good, FTR always good. This was a fun match, a little scrappy at parts, but it was a lot of fun. Dante and Seidel are a great fit together. I always thought that it would be good to take Dante and his brother into like the stable with the Seidels. They're such a great fit as like the high flyer stable, you know. It's worth noting here that Cash Wheeler of FTR appears to have healed from his really graphic getting ripped up by the turnbuckle injury, which is good because it's horrible to see people getting injured, especially when it was so graphic. So it's good to see that he's back, he's healed, he's better. As I say, it was a fun match. FTR got the win by hitting the big rig on Dante, and that was that. We then go back to the commentary team where Punk is talking about the infamous Suzuki incident. Have you heard of the Suzuki incident? Do you know the meme? In short, last week when Suzuki made his entrance, they cut the music short because the show was running out of time, and we didn't get the Kazi Ninare sing-along part of his entrance. Kazi Ninare is the name of the song he comes out to. That's like the main chorus bit. And what happens is, usually when he comes out, you would have seen this on All Out, everyone sings along to it, they go, Kazi Ninare. But we didn't get that last week, and everyone, it got crapped on the internet. And I agree, it was a total travesty. I was waiting for the bit. I was like, okay, here we go. And it didn't happen. But this gets remedied, don't worry. This then went to a promo with Suzuki-gun members, Archer and Suzuki. That's Minoru Suzuki. Now, you might not know who Suzuki-gun is. Suzuki-gun is a stable from New Japan, which obviously Minoru Suzuki is the leader of, and Lance Archer is a part of. So it's good that they're bringing the Suzuki-gun element into AEW. I like that. At Arthur Ashe Stadium next week, it's going to be Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Suzuki-gun, Lance Archer, and Minoru Suzuki. This is set to be bloody amazing. The Arthur Ashe Stadium show is going to be awesome. At one point, Excalibur straight up says, like, this is going to be a pay-per-view show on television. And they are really, really going for it. They're calling it the Grand Slam Dynamite, and it's like Grand Slam week. Rampage next week is going to be a 2-hour long show, not 1, 2 hour long. It's Grand Slam Rampage. Like I said, they're bigging up next week. It's going to be really good. Next up, the lights went out in the arena. It's like, oh, what's happening here? Then they went on, and you just see the shadow of Malachi Black sitting on the stage. His entrance is one of the best things at wrestling at the moment. The Ogun Roos music is just brilliant, and the way they like put the lights out, darkness, and it's like he walks to the ring, he walks around the ring, it's all silhouettes, it's all his shadow and his horns. It looks so cool. And then they do this thing where the lights go out and he appears and he's standing on the turnbuckle, then the lights go out and he appears sitting, like a second later he's sitting in the middle of the ring. It works. It's so good. So good. It's so simple, but it makes like such brilliant use of the wrestling stage and arena and the way it's lit and everything. I really love it. It's so good. Malachi gets the mic and he tells the audience, which he calls the members of the House of Black, to rise. The members of the House of Black to rise because we have an enemy in our midst. I was like, yes, that is so cool. Rosario Dawson was in the crowd. She's an American celebrity. She's on that Go Big show with Cody Rhodes. And that is the enemy he's talking about because he points to her, the camera goes to her, she's like, what? And she's wearing a Nightmare Family shirt, so she's in. He goes down to ringside. Rosario Dawson just steps out of the crowd. She steps up to Malachi and then she tries to choke him out. She jumps on his back and grabs him in a sleeper. It was great. He managed to shake her off. Then Cody Rhodes came out of nowhere and the two started brawling all around ringside and into the crowd. It was great. This is obviously setting up their big match next week, which is Cody Rhodes versus Malachi Black. In many ways, like, in my notes here, I'm like, in many ways, this feels like a go-home show. And it was more or less confirmed earlier that it was a go-home show. Loads of big angles that are leading into this big this big show next week, where we're going to have a lot of blow-off matches. We've got the return of Cody Rhodes, and he's facing Malachi Black. Who wins this? I don't know. I think Malachi Black will probably win it, but Cody will show that he's still in the game, you know, he's still in. Well, maybe Cody will win. It would make sense for Cody to win to get one over Black, but I don't know if you want to be beating Black yet. Who knows? It's a really good story, though. It's working. It's simple stuff, you know, really simple stuff. Next up, we went to a backstage segment with the Dark Order. So it started as an interview with Anna Jay, but Alex Reynolds come in and he started arguing with Evil Uno. Like, what happened was Anna Jay started speaking, then Evil Uno like interjected and started speaking, then Alex Reynolds came in and started having a go at Evil Uno for interjecting. Apparently, Alex Reynolds left the Dark Order, but is back so he can support Anna. I'm like, okay, like, when did this happen? I was clearly not paying enough attention last week. This segment digressed. They all started bickering. Anna stopped them, basically, not in this words, I'm paraphrasing. She told them to get an effing grip. At this point, for me, the Fight TV app crashed again. I was like, thanks, Fight. Thanks a lot. Next up, we went to an in-ring promo with Dan Lambert and his MMA crew, the American Top Team. He was out there, I think it's Arlovsky and Dos Santos who were in the ring with him. Obviously, Scorpio Sky and Paige. There was 2 female MMA fighters there, but I don't know who they were. I thought that their segment this week was going to be an open challenge, so Scorpio and Ethan Page could have a match with someone, but instead it's an open challenge for a match in the future. Dan Lambert was just awesome as usual, but at this point we've heard enough of Dan Lambert. We've heard his promos every week for about a month, maybe 5 weeks now. He is awesome. He's seriously so good at talking, but we need to see a match. We need some action now, you know. And I thought he was not going to do anything, but out of nowhere, Judas played. This led to Chris Jericho and Jack Hager coming out to the stage to answer this challenge. Lambert went mental. He starts telling people to stop singing Judas, insulting the fans, insulting Jericho. I'm not going to spoil it. Go and watch it. This was actually a really good segment between the two. Jericho cut a belting promo back, and it looks like we're going to have Y2J and Jake Hager versus Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page next week. But obviously, you've got the element of American Top Team there. You're probably going to have Arlovsky and Junior Dos Santos at ringside as well. Whether they get involved or not, I am interested to see that, especially Junior Dos Santos. I've always been a fan of Junior Dos Santos. He was really good as a fighter. I would not like to be standing across the ring from that guy. No way. We then went to a very, very quick Gun Club promo, and it was good because this was short. This was really short, but it was very concise, and they told us exactly why they turned on the Big Show. Their story is not against the Big Show. It's just that they feel cheated. They're undefeated in tag matches. They're undefeated in trios matches. They're undefeated in singles matches, but they've never had any title shots, and they are annoyed. They're pissed off. It is that simple. I'm cool with that. You know, it makes sense. Why not give them a shot? You know, they deserve it. They've put a lot of work in, and they got the younger guns, the Young Guns. It's like that should be their name, the Young Guns. They've been getting really good. You know what I mean? They're putting the work in. They're getting better in ring. They're getting really good at what they do. Give them a shot. I don't know, but it was good. Next up was Layla Hirsch versus Jade Cargill. Layla Hirsch is really something. I'm a big fan of Layla Hirsch. Whilst Jade, she has the ability to really become something in wrestling, but she's really green. You know, she's really green, and you've seen it in this match. I felt this would be a nice short match that wouldn't expose Jade too much, but this was not the case. Thankfully for the people in TV land, the majority of this match happened during a commercial break. Jade, like I say, as amazing as she looks physically, she's very green. In this match, she looked really, really green. Ironically, the part of the match where Jade looked best happened during the commercial break. It was an okay match. It wasn't bad. So I'm not going to say it was bad, but it went way too long. Jade's matches at the moment, I feel, need to be kept short, although, to use the word ironically again, she also needs the longer match experience. And this is what she's getting here. I guess it'll all come together eventually. Unlike other companies, this is how people have got to learn on AEW. This is not like a developmental show. This is the real deal. So she's going to get better, and we're all on board for the show at least. Jade eventually hit a big kick, then hit her, I don't know what they call it, implant buster. It used to be called an implant buster. That's probably a horribly non-PC way to call it. And she got the win. At the very least, they didn't squash Layla Hirsch. She still looked strong. She put in a good fight against someone that was like nearly double her size. So that was alright. We then went to another promo video. This time it was with Andrade and his lawyer, butler, I'm not really sure what he is. He is pissed that Chavo interrupted his match and he demands answers. He said that he can beat Pac whenever he wants. That was that. Next up, we went to the commentator table and Taz came out to confront Punk. He was shouting at him, telling him he took his job, blah, 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 stepping to Punk, getting in his face. Punk obviously stepped. Now, Hook was there as well. Hook was standing between Taz and Punk, so Hook was looking imposing and here. Then, out of nowhere, from behind, Hobbs steamed in and flattened Punk. Punk tried to fight back, but Hook put him in a dragon sleeper. Hook then cleared the announce desk, told the commentators to get out of here before Hobbs put Punk, slammed him through the commentary table. Next week, I think it's next week that we're going to get Hobbs versus CM Punk on Rampage, so that should be a fun match. It'll be good to see Hobbs going up against CM Punk, and of course it's going to be great to see CM Punk wrestling. For those that try to say Rampage is a B show, CM Punk's going to be wrestling on it, so there's that. Good little angle. It's going to set up thing. Next week we'll get to hear from, I think it's on Rampage this week, we're going to get to hear from Punk what he says to Hobbs, blah blah blah. Following this, we were shown a quick video detailing the very short feud between Spears and Darby Allin before they both made their entrances. Spears came out with Tully and Darby came out with Sting as expected. The match quickly went to the outside. Spears was beating on Darby on the ring steps but ended up hitting his own knee. Spears then managed to take Darby down and he used a t-shirt and wiped all the face paint off his face. I was like, okay, symbolic, I guess. This is another match that went through the commercial break. For us Fight TV viewers, this is not an issue, but this must have been annoying for people watching on television. The crowd were warm for this, but not as hot as I expected. Loads of Darby chants. The match itself was okay. It was nothing outstanding. I expected more after the build to it, but I guess the build was only like 2 weeks, so I'm not going to hold that against it. We have seen better Darby matches, though. Darby got the win after hitting the coffin drop. Post-match, FTR got in the ring and they started fighting with Sting and Darby. Tully tried to hit Sting with a chair, which was funny because Sting just no-sold it, then started trying to beat up Tully before FTR got involved, beat up Sting a bit, gave Sting the spike pile driver in the corner. Could we be seeing Sting versus FTR at Arthur Ashe Studio at Arthur Ashe Stadium next week? The answer is yes. We found out at the end of the show. Yes. Very quickly. Next up was a great segment. It was the Bryan Danielson segment. He came out for an interview. Tony was in the ring and he announced Bryan Danielson and the crowd went berserk. The screen on the stage had American Dragon on it. I popped hard for this. The crowd were just like, yes, yes, yes. In my head, I was like, yes, yes, yes. And he hadn't even spoke yet. I love that they're using the American Dragon term now. It's what he was known before he ever went to WWE. It's the name he made famous. Yes, this stuff makes me happy. This makes me really glad that I watch AEW Dynamite, you know. Tony asked Bryan about Kenny Omega, but before Bryan could speak, Dawn and Callis and Omega came out to confront him. Callis called Danielson the hippie millionaire. I bloody love Callis. He is the best. He starts insinuating that it is actually Bryan who is the carny POS, but he takes it back and he says he was just a mark. I was like, okay, excellent. Bryan tells him to shut up and instead says he wants to speak to Omega. Now, this was good. He said this is not about the title. This is not about the AEW title. This is about finding out who is better. He challenges Omega to a match, and again, the crowd went absolutely mental. Callis tried to interfere. He called Bryan a piece of poop. So many S-bombs this week. Basically, Bryan wants to fight the best bout machine. This segment was great. 2021 Bryan Danielson is so good, and the crowd agree with me on this one. They also love him. Omega accepted the challenge, much to the chagrin of Callis. It looks like we'll be getting Omega versus American Dragon at some point, and it turns out we're getting that next week. Arthur Ashe is going to be such a good show. After this, we had a quick backstage promo with Miro. He accepts Fuego del Sol's challenge. He made a comment about you shouldn't touch a hot stove twice. I kind of agree. Don't touch a hot stove once, let alone twice. It's going to be Miro versus Fuego del Sol for the TNT title, and obviously Fuego del Sol's car is up for grabs. Good luck, Fuego. I hope Fuego gets the win. Got to remember that he's the one that discovered Miro's weakness of the neck. This is going to play into it a bit, guaranteed. We then get the lineup for the next 2 weeks of TV. This is going to be so good the next week and a half, 2 weeks of wrestling. On Rampage this week, we've got the Lucha Brothers versus Butcher and Blade. We've got Anna Jay versus the Bunny, and we've got the Miro versus Fuego del Sol match for the TNT Championship. That's on this week's Rampage, hour long. Next week, and like I said, the Excalibur told us this is a pay-per-view event on television, live from Arthur Ashe Stadium. This is the card. We have Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson in a match just to see who is the best wrestler. Yes. We've got Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Suzuki Gun, Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer. Awesome. We've got a CM Punk live interview leading up to the match against Hobbs on Rampage on the following Friday. We've got Cody versus Malachi Black. We've got the MJF versus Pillman Jr. match. And we've got Britt Baker for DMD and Ruby Soho for the Women's Championship. And, as I suspected, we have the FDR versus Darby and Sting. That's a stacked show. That's a really, really, really good lineup for next week's AEW Dynamite Grand Slam edition. Then next Friday, we've got the Rampage Grand Slam. We will be getting the matches. The Super Click, that is the Bucks and Adam Cole versus Christian and the Jurassic Express. We've got CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs. We've got Jericho and Hager versus the Men of the Year. That's Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. Obviously with the American top team with them. This is going to be like next week's Rampage is 2 hours long. This is for 4 hours of AEW next week on television. This is awesome. And now we get to the main event. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus 2.0. Of course, Jon Moxley and Kingston entered through the crowd. They were so over here. It was great. People were slapping their backs. People just love this too. 2.0 tried to jump them before the bell, but it did not go very well for them. Moxley ended up getting in the ring with Parker. There was a lot of biting here. Moxley's really into biting at the moment. I mean, it's good. It matches him, but it's good. There was a funny tweet by Renee, Moxley's wife, saying she really wishes that Moxley would stop biting people. It's like, you can't really blame her, she's got to kiss that. Moxley got in the ring, but Lee kept beating on Kingston and outside. The match started hot, but eventually 2.0 got the better of Moxley. They started working on him, getting heat. Again, this went to the commercials very early in the match, and it must have annoyed people watching on TV. It said it was going picture in picture, but I mean, that would still annoy me. I know that, but I would be annoyed. 2.0 were looking great in this match. They did what they were there to do, but eventually Eddie Kingston got the hot tag, came in, and it led to Parker getting destroyed. Well, it led to them both getting destroyed. The match finished when Parker got hit with a half and half suplex lariat combination from Moxley and Kingston for the win. That was great. The good guys stand tall. And then we got the main event. This blew the roof off the place. Minoru Suzuki's music played. It's like, yes, this time we got the full entrance with this sing-along. Yes, we all got to sing Kaze ni nare Nira, or whatever it is. I don't know. My Japanese sucks. While this was happening, obviously, Minoru Suzuki got in the ring, went face-to-face with Moxley. Whilst Eddie Kingston wasn't looking, Archer appeared from the other side, pulled Eddie Kingston out of the ring, and this broke down into a huge brawl. Eddie was fighting Archer. Moxley was fighting Suzuki at ringside. It was just brilliant. This all escalated to Suzuki and Mox fighting on the timekeeper's table, standing on the timekeeper's table. Suzuki teased a pile driver and Mox through the table, but it was blocked. At this point for me, the Fight TV stream just cut off mid-sentence, 30 seconds or a minute before the end, which kind of annoyed me. I had to watch the last minute on the internet. Thanks, Fight. It was good. They just kept brawling. It was a fantastic way to end the show. We ended on a real high. Next week's show from Arthur Ashe is going to be spectacular. This was a really, really fun show this week. There was a few sections where I thought it was a bit meh, I was like the Jade Cargill, Layla Hirsch match. I was like, I mean, you could really see that Jade's maybe not ready for television wrestling yet, but she looks good enough, so that's good. She needs to practice, so that's cool. I wasn't a fan of the MJF stuff, but it's hard not to like the show that was on. Everything else was just fantastic. A lot of promo segments, but they were there for a reason, because it's a go-home show for next week. Man, I can take a breath. Roll on Rampage this week. Roll on next week's Grand Slam Dynamite from Arthur Ashe Stadium and Rampage shows. Next week's going to be a fantastic week for wrestling. It's going to be really, 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 really good. And that's it for this week. Remember, if you have watched this video, leave us a like, subscribe to Wrestlebuddy, turn the notifications on so when the James Ellsworth interview and the other interviews appear, you get told about it straight away. Later on today, the Ellsworth interview will be dropping. That's around 3 o'clock UK time, so it's about an hour and a half from now. Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of Dynamite. I'll get back to you.